somewhere. But I'm glad you're here. We're here to praise the Lord. I hope you'll do that and give God the glory. Number 36 in your hymnal. Number 36 in your hymnal. And when you find it, come on and stand with me. I would love to look out and see every mouth moving while they're singing this song. There's nothing else but sing. Number 36. To God be the glory.
Away.
Illinois, number 554. 554. It's a good song to give the devil a good swift kick on. Just telling it's well with my soul. Get away from me. Number 554. And peace like a river attendeth my way. When sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with whatever answer in your life. Will you decide now to follow Jesus? Will you decide now to follow Jesus? Will you decide now to follow Jesus? No turning back, no turning back. Would you bow with me this morning as we go to God in prayer? There are some very serious needs that I need to just remind you of. We pray for Judy and her family, loss of her brother this past week. Greg Hubbard passed away. That God will be close to them as well. Pray for those who are of the family of Dan Mappus, former pastor here. Dan Mappus passed away this week. Pray that God will be close there to them. Also pray for Nelson's family. Alice requested prayer this morning. Nelson's grandchild was found dead in their house, 7 years of age. And that family needs your prayer, so please remember that prayer request if you would.
Last day, Joe and I both need prayer too, and especially for Jason, probably already know it's been in the paper, but anyway, he's back in jail again, and Joe's having a rough time dealing with it, and I don't know what's wrong with my physical health, but I am not good at all. I'm dizzy, I'm off balance, I'm always falling down. Last Saturday night, and hurt my spine, and I'm hurting all the way up to my neck, across my shoulders, and so solidly now in pain. And I don't know how much longer I'm going to drive from you can't hear to the church. And if Joe doesn't come and drive me, I'm going to get and that breaks my heart. So it does. So please pray that God will get a hold of Joe and help him with this depression and dealing with the things that he has to deal with.
Anybody else have any needs here this morning? Don't have to say them out loud. Would you just raise your hand if you've got a need that you need God to do something special in? I'd like to ask Alice if she would. Alice, you're feeling up to it. Would you lead us in prayer this morning, please?
Our Father, we're coming to your presence this morning. So glad that you're still on the throne. We can come to you anytime, night or day.
Yes.
You're always there. We especially ask you to be with Judy and her family and her brother. And just undertake the dinner and be with Joe and Linda. And especially be with Jason right now, dear Lord, to speak to his heart and help him to get back right with you, to be with Joe and take her that depression. She'll feel better. And all of those, as I said, that John and be with Joan this morning and Ray Berg and touch his body. And Lord, we just ask you to be with that precious family this morning. Who lost their little boy.
Yes, God.
We don't understand these things, but as my daddy used to say, the Lord never makes a mistake.
That's right. Yes.
And we just ask you to be with that family, be with them, and put your arms of love around them.
Amen.
Help them to know that they can come to you, dear Lord. The one thing for sure, that child's in heaven. We just know he's with Nelson this morning. We just thank you for saving me. I'm glad that my sins are covered by the blood.
Amen. Praise
And I
Jesus.
praise you for what you're doing in my life.
Yes.
And I just love you supremely this morning, Lord. I'm so glad that you're with me daily, with everybody here. We ask you to be with each and every one today. That they're not Christians, that they'll give their lives and hearts to
That's right,
thee.
God. Everywhere.
Their time is drawing near, people, you need to be ready. And we just ask you to be with those that are having problems this morning, touch each and every one of them. We ask you to be with that pastor that you're lifting up this morning. And I ask you to be with that country, especially, dear Lord, needs prayer. So much hatred, and just take that away and put love there, dear Lord.
Amen.
We
Yes.
just thank you again for who you are. And I'm looking forward to the day when I'll go to heaven, see you face to face.
Yes,
And see
amen.
my loved ones, dear Lord, and help me to
Yes,
remain
amen.
truly faithful to you,
Yes.
that others will see Jesus living in me. Again, I thank you and praise you for who you are. In Jesus' name, amen.
Turn around and shake someone's hand. Tell them your middle name. Would you? weeks from this morning, Calvary's Hill Quartet. That is a group of 5 guys, not a quartet. Anyhow, Calvary's Hill will be with us, okay, sharing song. And they have never been here before. I'm excited to have them come and join us. They're based out of Florida, but many of them are from North Carolina, from what I believe. And I hope you will come. The service starts at 10:30. Somebody say that again.
10:30.
What time? 10:30. How many of you going to come walking in late? Starts at 10:30, and we'll have dinner following the service. So please come on out and join us for that, and invite a friend. Bring somebody with you. If somebody brings 100 people with them, I'm going to give you $100. Anyhow, looking forward to that day. Also notice, if you would, men's prayer breakfast is moved from the 4th Saturday to the 5th Saturday this month. It'll be on the 29th. Please get that word out. We had to move that this month, just for this month. It's just a one-time thing, but please get the word out. I know we have quite a few guys come from different places who do not attend here, so if you know them, get the word out to them so they don't come the wrong day. There won't be anything to eat here that day. But anyhow, I'm going to ask our ushers to come at this time to receive our morning tithes and offerings, if they would, please.
Gracious, loving Heavenly Father, Lord, we pray today, Heavenly Father, to be in thy presence again, Lord, to use thy power, be with that master, Lord, help me, Heavenly Father, Lord, upon the word, to give you all the praise, the honor, and the glory, for in thy name we pray.
it's funny how it started, because I was actually driving home and was just like falling asleep at the wheel. So I just started singing that I'm tired. And then I was like, I actually like this, so I kind of wrote a song from it, but this is too loud, too aggravating. I'm tired, I'm so tired, I can't do this anymore. I fall to pieces on the floor, so I lie here, I just lie here. Seems like you've forgotten me, left me for eternity. I'm so weak, I can't breathe, holding to a hope you promised me. It's so far gone, oh my God, is it just an elaborate fantasy? Then you swoop in like you're a Superman and take me away to someplace safe. I'm tired, I'm so tired, I can't do this anymore. I fall to pieces on the floor and I lie here, I just lie here. It seems like you've forgotten me, left me for eternity, but my soul finds rest in the name of Jesus. And your name, it is a strong and mighty tower, and I run to it, and I am safe. And you are my kind comforter and friend. And you go with me through until the journey's end. You never leave me on my own, even when I feel alone. And with you I am safe. I was tired, I was so tired, I couldn't do it anymore. I'd fallen to pieces on the floor, and I lie there, I just lie there. And it seemed like you'd forgotten me, left me for eternity, till my soul found rest in the name of Jesus.
Yes, amen.
And your name, it is a strong and mighty tower. I ran to it, and
upon a time there was 3 bears. Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and George. The time came for all good children to go to bed, so Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the door of the church in Wittenberg. All of a sudden, a huge bolt of lightning came out of the eastern sky and struck his 1971 Chevy Vega right on the front bumper. So Santa Claus jumped on his sleigh and yelled as loud as he could, "Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin." On the other side of the ocean, fans were cheering throughout the whole stadium, "Build that wall! Build that wall!" But Nicodemus would have nothing to do with it, so he decided to break on through to the other side. Well, the elephants got in the way, and having very little sense of direction, the entire apple pie ended up overcooked and leaking oil from its valve covers. What could he do? He finally decided to pick up all the nickels off the ground, call his neighbor and ask him, "Do you ride the bus to work or do you take your lunch?" 2 months later, Pontius Pilate asked his sister's husband's wife, "Why are all the women in the marketplace wearing white?" To which she replied, "Everywhere the deer and the antelope play, they make 3-point conversions by shooting apple, peaches, pumpkin pie."
Oh my goodness. She's all crazy.
Sometimes what we say, our talk, is actually fairly intelligent conversation, and we can make a difference with the words that come out of our mouths. But other times, it's exactly the opposite. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and in reality does more harm than good. The old adage, "Talk is cheap," really is true. But it is also true, folks, that talk, the wrong kind of talk, can also be very costly. You see, our problem is really not one of communication in our society, in our lives, in our relationships, in our families. Our problem concerns the wrong kind of communication. I just shared with you a lot of facts. I owned a 1971 Chevy Vega, and it did leak from the valve covers. The right kind of communication needs our attention, I believe. I like what Rule Howell said. He defines communication as the attempt on the part of ourselves to find and call each other out of the loneliness of independent selfhood into a relationship of mutual interest and purpose. That is a refined way of saying communication is sharing yourself with another person. Jesus was an expert in communication. People understood him. They understood him so well that they wanted to kill him. Because Jesus told it like it was, folks. And he encouraged the right kind of communication every time he talked. He encouraged directness in communication. In Matthew 5:37, which is our text for this morning, he said, "Let your yes be yes and your no, no. For anything that more than this comes from the evil one." Very simply, he was saying, mean what you say and say what you mean. I think if more people could learn to do this, then communication would be greatly helped. Jesus also encouraged us to be direct in expressing forgiveness. Not just let your yes be yes and your no, no, but be direct in expressing forgiveness, because I believe forgiveness comes from love. And just because we say, "Oh, I've got to let my yes be yes and my no, no," that means you have the right to trample all over everybody else with everything that you say. That's not what Jesus said. He told us in Matthew 18, "If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens, you have gained your brother." Then he went on to describe what to do in case that failed. If he doesn't listen to you and you go just you and him, take someone with you who will be a witness. And he said, if that doesn't work, take it to the church. And if that doesn't work, folks, we need to learn how to talk to each other. And I'm convinced, not just in society, not just in Washington, D.C., not just in our government, not just in our relationships with people at work and on and on. I'm convinced that we need to learn how to communicate, especially in our families. There is an art to it. Our point is, we need to know how to approach conflict and difficulty in the right way, because we're going to have it. The health of our lives, the health of our families, the health of our society, the health of our world depends on learning the art of communication. So I want us to take a look at that verse of Jesus that I just shared. Let your yes be yes and your no, no. I believe the wrong kind of communication destroys relationships. Without knowing it, sometimes we fall into patterns of attacking each other, and it's very difficult. I've listened to a few of my sermons. I don't like doing that. I'll be honest with you. You may just enjoy it tremendously on Sunday morning, correct? Two of you, good. I hate listening to myself on tape or on YouTube or whatever it may be. I sound like a little kid. And my language isn't always right, and on. My hand motions, I don't know what to do with these hands. I'm just going to tell you that. I try leaving them in my pocket, that's not good. I try holding the pulpit, that's not good. It's very difficult for us to hear ourselves the way other people hear us. And so unconscious for some is the attack in families that we do it without even know that we're doing it. And so much better our relationships would be at home, at work, and in church, on the job, wherever, if we just figured out how to do it. There are some examples of the wrong kind of communication. And nobody here does these, so if you'll just indulge me for this first point, then I'll go to something a little better. One is a negative response. You ever know anybody who everything that comes out of their mouth is negative? You know, it's not sunning out today. The weather sure is nasty. It stinks outside. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. The rain was good, because the grass was getting dry, and it would turn brown, and we need the rain.
Amen.
Yeah, but if that's all you saw was the rain and not the good in it, and people talk that way. A lot of us talk that way. We respond negatively to everything, and everything, and almost anything that other people say. Everything is bad, and without realizing it, we meet every suggestion, every comment with a, well, that's not right. I think another kind of attack that destroys communication is constant use of sarcasm and cynicism. I looked up that word because I think it's such a good word. Sarcasm literally means a mocking remark intended to wound another. And when we respond sarcastically, it could be a devastating experience. You might know what you mean, and you might just be kidding, but the other person takes it the wrong way. It's like throwing a snowball at them with a rock in it. And sometimes we need to not do that. Families also attack each other by their unspoken demonstrations. How many of you have ever had a teenager in your house? Did they ever roll their eyes at you? You know what that remark means, don't you? Do you ever roll your eyes at your spouse? The person who goes through their house banging everything they touch is communicating something without any words. And the other side of that, and I'm guilty. I'm sorry, honey. Sometimes I just... How come so many of you are looking at each other? I just clam up, you know, and I just figure if I don't talk long enough, something will get done, you know. Unspoken demonstrations. Still, there's another kind, I think, that was scriptural, so it must make it right. We blame it on everybody else. It's a very popular human game. I catch myself doing this when I'm driving, and I'm really working on this. I've been telling you this, okay? People have not learned yet that it's my road. They need to get out of my way. It's all their fault that they cut in front of me, and on and on and on. This began with Adam and Eve. I need to tell you that. Adam was caught up in the act. He blamed it on her. She did it. And she blamed it on the serpent, you know. And the buck is still being passed today. The favorite sport, I think, among families and co-workers is pin the tail on the donkey. He did it. It's always the other person's fault. Well, the wrong kind of communication, folks, makes people defend themselves. And when we communicate the wrong way, they've got to respond that way. But it's hard to defend oneself and communicate at the same time. When we spend so much time caring for our own feelings, we don't have time to care for the feelings of others. And maybe we just need to take a step back, I think, and we can even claim to be caring for others when we're actually defending ourselves or attacking them or trying to prove our point. The wrong kind of communication usually comes from a person who's unhappy with themselves. Y'all still here? I think it's important for us to understand that both action and talking are required in communication. Action and talking are required. Jesus emphasized that when he was described as going about doing good, wasn't he? They said that over and over about him. He didn't just sit on a rock and preach. He went about doing good. And that's what our Christian communication needs to be. Some things have to be put into action in our marriages and our families. And in fact, if you say I love you, but you never show it to your spouse, it's not going to be long before they're not going to believe it. Our words have meaning only if they are validated by our actions. One of the acts of communication, and I'm going to share just a couple here. One of the acts of communication is listening. Yeah. Spouses, elbow your husband there. One man said to his friend, "My wife talks to herself a lot." And his friend said, "Mine does too, but she doesn't even know it. She thinks I'm listening." Anybody there? Dwight Small said to listen is to be really present to another person, actually to give your full presence. He said, "I hear you, you don't have to shout," to his wife. And she replied, "Yeah, you hear me, but you're not listening." What does listening mean, folks? It means paying attention to while they're talking. I think other demonstrations of care are also as important as our words. Jesus said it nicely. If you love me, keep my commandments. If you love me. And if family members, if co-workers love each other, they will want to do the things that please the other person. We can't depend on action alone. You can't just do stuff. You've got to talk, okay? And talk is not only helpful, it's necessary. Some people talk very easily. I'm trying to be gentle here. Some people talk very easily, but their talking has little meaning. The wife was once asked, "Why don't you think before you speak?" And she said, "How can I know what I think until I've heard what I've got to say?" Nobody in this room. I mean, talking can just be talking, like I opened this message with, or it can be communicating. Jesus was talking about communicating when he said, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no." And I believe there are certain kind of rules that need to be followed in our communication. I understand this is a weird sermon. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. It's just, I've had it in my... I have a sermon notebook up there that I keep. I've got recorded all my sermons all the way back to 1991, what sermon I preached on what day. And in the leaflet of that, if I see a good outline, I think, man, that would be really good. I stick it in there. This has been in there for 8 months. But here's some things I think, certain rules, I don't know if that's the right word, that need to be followed if we're going to communicate, okay? Number one, and I'm preaching this because I need to improve on all 5 of these. We need to ask questions. We need to be willing to say, "What do you mean by that?" And literally mean that. What do you mean by that? And allow the other person to answer that question, okay? And we must be interested in what the other person has to say, not the meaning that we put on it. Because quite frankly, folks, sometimes people talk, and I get something totally out of what they said from what they said. Anybody ever get that way? You know, the sky is blue. Well, how do you know it's blue? Who told you, you know? And we need to check back, if you would, and say, what do you mean by that? And explain it a little better. And don't just repeat the same words. Say the same thing in a different way. Because my brain is just, you know? Anybody here like that? I think the second thing that we need to do is We need to state feeling as feeling and fact as fact. When Jesus said, let your yes be yes and your no, no, he didn't say that so we can trample all over everybody. Sometimes, I know you're going to have a hard time believing this, sometimes my opinion is wrong. And so is yours. You know what an opinion is? It's a belief or an idea held with confidence, but not substantiated by direct proof or knowledge. You know? And some people state all their feelings as if they were proven facts. And you can't distinguish between what is opinion and what is objective reality. And that ruins communication, okay? It's okay to have an opinion, but we also need to recognize them as an opinion, not a fact. The moon is made out of cheese. Did you know that? When I was growing up, they believed that. The moon was made out of cheese. I heard on the news just 2 days ago, I think it was, by 2024, you will be able to take a trip to the lunar, the space station up there and spend a week up there. It's only $35,000 a night and $5 million for transportation there and back. Anybody want to go? Got one nut here. My opinion is my opinion. I'm allowed to have an opinion. All of us are allowed to have our opinion, but that doesn't make it fact. Okay? And we need to recognize, we need to state feeling as feeling and fact as fact. Thirdly, we can be helpful in communication if we try to be accurate about our feelings. Some people are extreme about everything they do. If someone disagrees with that person, the person will go, then you think I'm no good at all, don't you? How many times do you ever catch yourself saying these words? You always, or you never, blah, 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 blah. How often would that really be the case? Maybe in the midst of that, you feel like it is. They never let you off the hook, or they always interrupt you, or whatever. And we throw all of our feelings at somebody else at one time, and that doesn't help communication. It may help us get our feelings out, but it usually inundates the person we're trying to communicate with. Because feelings and thoughts need to be stated as accurately as they can be. Some things are feelings, folks. I just feel like you're doing this to me, or I feel like you're saying this to me. Instead of, I know what you're saying. Y'all still here? You're not going to love me after this sermon, are you? Number 4, if talking is going to be helpful, if communication is going to be helpful, we need to express appreciation as well as hurts. Express appreciation as well as hurts. Isn't it something, and statistics show this out, we often remember for many months and sometimes years things people have said to us that hurt us, but we often forget when they said something to express something nice to us. I don't know why that is, folks. It just is. But for talking to be helpful, communication to be helpful, it needs to be used to carry gratitude as often as possible. And people who try to appreciate one another and express that appreciation, I think when you begin to do that, we get more joy out of giving that appreciation than they get from receiving it. And it somehow neutralizes all the negative stuff. Number 5. Y'all still here? Ask questions. What do you mean by this? State feeling is feeling and fact is fact. Be accurate about your feelings and statements. Express appreciation. I think the most important is this. We need to not just talk to each other. We need to talk to God. Let me be more specific. We need to talk to God about how we talk to others. We need to talk to God. We need to confess our failures. And you know, I still believe that 1 John 1:9 says, if we confess our sins, He is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. And I believe when we confess our sins to Him, it also entails our mouths and our communication and those times that we fail in our communication. There's deep meaning in that verse of 1 John 1:9. The Christian has the advantage, I think, of being able to pray about differences with other people. Somebody out there. And we have the advantage of praying about that. But praying about differences doesn't mean using prayer to manipulate the other person and change them. Praying about our differences is praying to accept the other person as a person, even though they may have a different opinion than we do. I also think in prayer we can ask for grace to accept each other's humanity. Your spouse isn't perfect. You know that. I know that for a fact because they married you. That was a joke. Thank you. I got pretty sure, I'm pretty sure that before Jesus takes us home, we're going to have disagreements with other people sometime along the way. Boss, spouse, somebody on the road in that car. When he told us in Matthew 18 to go to them and talk to them, he didn't say go to them so you can prove that you're right. He said go to them and talk to them so you can get over your differences. And when we have done that, we can also go to God who has loved us when we were wrong. You know that. God kept on talking to us even when we were in a broken relationship with Him. Even when we thought we were right and He thought He was right. He kept talking to us and accepted us. Because God is a great communicator. He communicated His love to us in that while we were yet sinners, He sent Christ to die for us. He acted out His love. He spoke out His love. And the message of that love changed our lives, if you've allowed it to. That's what communication with God is Him talking to us, Him communicating with us. And as the great communicator, He can help us become better at it. Talk is cheap. But in many relationships, it's also very expensive, folks. Because I know people, there are some in this room, who haven't talked to some people for years. I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot. It's a shame that our communication has broken down that far. It costs the happiness of families and friendships. Or communication can create happiness in our relationships. If Christ is in our hearts, then care needs to be on our lips that we speak Christ-like. Colossians 4:6 says, let your speech be always seasoned with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer every man. Would you just pray with me this morning as we close? Father, we are gathered here to give you the glory you deserve. We're here to lift up your name. That entails our communicating to you our love. I also believe, Lord, your word has told us that we need to learn how to communicate better with others as well. I pray right now, Lord, for those who need forgiveness in this area, knowing that you still forgive. You can still make a difference, and you can wipe it clean. So I pray right now for each of us, Lord, if there's anything in our past of our communication with others that has not been Christ-like, I pray you forgive us. Help us with our attitudes, our actions, our words, our way of communicating, Lord, if it was not what you wanted it to be. Please forgive us. But also, Lord, commit us to the future to be what you want us to be. Help us to do better at speaking the truth in love and truly loving people that we communicate with. Have your way. Pour out your Spirit on this crowd, even as we go, and help us to be the people you want. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. God bless you, and thank you for